Good evening, and welcome to a Persona rant by me, Rich Platinum, of course. Now, so nobody is confused, this rant is about the series of video games published by the company Atlus. Now, before I get into my rant, I would just like to say that I am a big fan of the Persona games. I have played every single one in the trilogy, and yes, I am not counting any of the previous games that came before Persona 3, because they are old, and more importantly, I have not played them. Anyway, yesterday was a special anniversary for the series, because that was the day that Persona 3 originally came out. So to celebrate that special day, I've decided to give this series a good verbal lashing. Just know that I am only hurting you because I love you. The Persona games are some of my favorites of all time. The soundtrack for every game is absolutely wonderful, and if you never plan to play these games, then I highly recommend that you at least give the soundtracks a good listen to, because some of the songs are just downright beautiful works of art. I would also recommend you play the games themselves, because all of them are a good mix of genuinely interesting ideas, with dark themes and inane anime nonsense. Each game has their own strengths and weaknesses that I could go on and on about, but I am not here to praise these games. I am here to rant and to express my anger, because every one of these games has a common weakness. Can you guess what it is? Well, you shouldn't have to, because I've made it the title of this video. Why can't I be gay in Persona? I mean, Atlas, come now. You put all these cute, adorable boys in your game and you tell me that I can't date them? But I can date all the underage Japanese schoolgirls I want? How does that make any sense? Oh wait, don't answer that, because I think I can take a stab at the reason. You see, viewer, if you don't know, Atlas is a Japanese company, and Japan is a backwoods country where the age of consent is 13 and gay marriage is not legal. I know, it's absolutely despicable and disgusting. But this is a rant about Persona and not a rant about the entire country of Japan. Because as an American myself, I can sympathize with them. The views of my government certainly do not reflect the views of its smart, rational citizens like myself. And Atlas, you don't have to let me get married to any of these boys, but you can at the very least let me date them and or kiss them. I believe you have those freedoms because didn't we teach you how to be a more sensible country after we nuked you twice? Oh, sorry. Was that offensive? Did I just offend you with the fact that we ended the war that you started by horrifically destroying two of your cities? Well, good, because you have started a war with me, Atlas, and I intend to end it with vicious verbal violence. Now, I shall list some of my grievances with the Persona games so you, the viewer, can understand why I am so enraged with these games. Now, in the game of Persona 3, you are not allowed to have any kind of romance with your male companions. Now, for some, I completely understand why you can't have a romance with them. Say, for example, the best friend character, Junpei. Junpei has a romantic relationship with a character in the game's story, so that wouldn't work if you could romance him. But, more importantly, he has a goatee, so nobody would want to date him anyway. Now, for some of the other characters, I can understand for not allowing any romance with them, but one character, Akihiko, should be totally romanceable. Not only is he an absolute stud, he's the only character in this game that is not overtly, overwhelmingly straight, and anybody with even an ounce of taste would want to get with this man. And I know for a fact that you agree with me, Atlas, because when you ported the game over to the terrible system known as the PSP, you gave the players the chance to be a female character, which allowed you to romance the boys in the game. But instead of doing all that, you could have just, let me be gay? The main character looks androgynous anyway. It wouldn't be that much of a stretch that Akihiko could be interested in him. But whatever, the game came out in 2006, and that was a different time. Now, Persona 4, on the other hand, is a bit of a different story. So, the original came out in 2008, which, similar to Persona 3, was a different time, but that version was replaced in 2012 with Persona 4 Golden, a remastered version that came out on the Vita, which I actually bought, unlike the PSP. But I digress. So in Persona 4, there are several cute boys that I can talk about, but I am only going to focus on the two that really matter, and that is Yosuke and Kanji. So let's start with Kanji, because quite frankly, I love him much more than Yosuke. So if you don't know, Kanji is gay, and he struggles with that fact in the game. His shadow is a flamboyant version of himself that talks about how he prefers men and doesn't like women very much. Now, some liberal snowflakes might be offended by this stereotypical depiction of gayness, but I actually quite enjoy Kanji's shadow. For one thing, the whole point of the shadows is that they are exaggerated cartoonist personifications of the feelings that the main characters don't want to accept about themselves. In Kanji's case, he fears that he might have a case of the gays and is reluctant to accept this part of himself. But he eventually does, thus gaining his persona. Now, the actual character of Kanji is a gruff, cool, hot-headed young man who is seen as a delinquent by many, but is actually a kind sweetheart deep down. And his whole arc throughout the game is accepting himself and his feminine hobbies, and realizing that they don't make him any less of a man, and in fact, by being proud of it, it makes him a better man. Also, he is voiced by Troy Baker. And I mean, have you heard this man's sweet voice before? It's fantastic. And when he's playing the shadow character of Kanji, he says the word toodaloo, which just fills my heart with joy. So why can I not date him? Why must you play with my heart like this, Atlas? I am the main character in these games, and I am gay, so why can my character not be gay? It's pretty obvious during the game that he likes and admires you, so why can these feelings not blossom into love? Oh, it's because he's not a female. Because every female in this game wants you, but I don't want any of them. I want Kanji. God, I hate you, Atlas. But I also love you. And speaking of things I both hate and love, let's talk about Yosuke. In the game, he is your best friend character, and in the intro sequence to it, he is shown putting himself in a trash can. I shouldn't have to explain the very obvious metaphor here. But even though Yosuke is trash, he's my trash and my partner, and I love him. And imagine my shock when I found out that Atlas was originally going to let you romance him. So Atlas knows that some of their customers do want to romance the boys in their games, and they can totally write it in, but they won't, simply because they are cowards. Okay, that's enough about Persona 4, because I'm afraid if I talk any more about it, I will become enraged, and I am saving my rage for talking about Persona 5. So, 4 years after the release of Persona 4 Golden, Persona 5 came out. Now, Persona 5 can easily be considered to be the best of the series. It's got smooth jazz, cool characters, an interesting plot, and even more women to date than the last. But still no boys. You can date a reporter, a doctor, and your own teacher who are all older than your high school aged character, but you can't date any boys because of reasons. And the worst part is that all the boys in this game are great. You've got Ryuji, the best friend character, who's like Kanji, but cuter and less interesting. Then you've got Yusuke, who is absolutely delectable, a cute artist boy who everyone on the internet seems to love, but he's poor, so not really my type. But I would totally date him if I could, and plus his social link is you going on pseudo dates with him. Like, is this a joke, Atlas? Haha, we put a cute artist who you can go on dates with, but you can't actually date him. Take that, the gays and any females that happen to play this game. Joke's on you. You thought this was going somewhere in a romantic direction? "Oh, just kidding, you're just friends, because men can't date each other or be interested in each other, because that's weird." And speaking of weird things that happen in the game, you know what's a great joke that Atlas made? There's a wonderful scene in the game where two gay men show up to molest Ryuji. And this seriously happens in the game. Are you trying to piss me off with this, Atlas? Because this is how you do it. Because not only have you regressed from your previous game, which had a main character be gay, in this new one, none of the main characters are gay, and they instead put in an offensive scene where they harass my boy Ryuji because sexual assault is funny when it happens to men. And the best part about this scene is they kept it in the great scam they pulled where they re-released the same game again and just added a minimal amount of DLC for $60. Oh, but hey, we added another underage girl for you to date. That's what you wanted, right? No, Atlas, I wanted you to let me date the boys, like Ryuji or Yusuke. In fact, I would even take a Akechi, that pancake-loving snitch. But most of all, I personally wanted to date Mishima. I mean, he's just such a cutie, and he doesn't deserve all the terrible things that happened to him in this game. But everybody online seems to hate Mishima, and that's perfectly fine with me, because I can have him all to myself. Or I would if Atlas would actually let me date him. But you are not allowed to be gay, and it doesn't matter if it would make sense or be cute, because being gay is weird and gross, unlike wanting to date underage Japanese high school girls. But whatever, I am done talking about Persona 5. And now that I'm done talking about something that I hate, I am going to instead talk about something that I love. So I have a question for you, viewer. Do you want to play a Japanese RPG with good music, decent combat, and an interesting story that also doubles as a dating simulator? Well then, you should play Fire Emblem Three Houses, because this game will actually let you date who you want, unlike the Persona games. But some people might argue that you shouldn't be allowed to be gay in Persona because none of the characters themselves are gay. Well, that's fine, because you know what Fire Emblem does? It allows me to play as a female character, so now I can romance all the boys I want, like that sexy Prince Dimitri, and nothing can stop me. And while there aren't very many gay male relationships, there are quite a few lesbians, which is great to see because to be honest, who isn't into lesbians? I mean, I am a gay man, but even I quite enjoy all the romances in this game because they are just so cute. Like take Hilda and Marianne, two women who just have an adorable romance that genuinely touched me when I got the ending for it. Or another example would be Dorothea and Petra. But unfortunately, there aren't really any explicit gay romances between the men. But I mean, just look at Felix and Sylvain's support conversations and ending. These two are obviously in love with each other, and I can see it, even if they can't. I mean, especially Felix. He is most certainly crushing on Sylvain, and it is so adorable. And the nice thing about this game is even if you're not into the gay stuff, which I must say, I do feel sorry for you if you do not, because it must be hard being so boring. But I think you should still buy this game regardless, because almost all of these characters have different romances with different characters, so you can choose what you personally like and are not just trapped in what some backwoods game developers think you want. And also, props to this game for not letting you actually romance any of these characters until they get over the age of 18, which is just wonderful. And I would also like you to be aware that this is a Nintendo exclusive. When Nintendo is infinitely more progressive and inclusive than you are, you might want to change your views and let me be gay in Persona. Well, that's all the time I've got. I've got to get back to playing Fire Emblem Three Houses on my Nintendo Switch. Yes, Dimitri, kill them all, you sexy edgelord prince. Oh ho! A critical hit. Nice job, Dimitri. Oh, wait, this thing is still recording.